time wasting. That's it.
It's more logical to believe that someone has died. If you believe if you believe that Jesus went up alive, that means you're giving him a higher status than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So for 1,400 years.
Well, even in Islam, Isa is said to be sinless, but Muhammad was not sinless. Muhammad was not sinless, but Isa was sinless. Even in the hadith, even in Sahih al-Bukhari, I can find you hadith that say that Muhammad was forgiven for his past sins, but Isa, there's no sins mentioned for him.
It doesn't specifically say he's sinless. It doesn't say that.
Right, but it's Muhammad. But he did sins according to both the Quran and the hadith.
Just to clarify that one.
Yeah.
When it came to religious matters, when it came to deen, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was, yes, perfect. But of course, apart from in his normal life, he was a man. So men make mistakes. But when it came to the teachings of Islam, perfection.
No, even the hadith say he made mistakes that even related to Islam. There's a hadith that says that he used to say by the Kaaba, and the people there will get upset at him, say, no, you shouldn't say that, Muhammad, you should say by the Lord of the Kaaba. Yeah, I'll give you the hadith for that. Yeah, there's a hadith.
Okay, so you believe Jesus, he went up alive in the heavens?
Of course. Allah saved him.
So he's sitting in the
Allah
heavens
saved
right now.
him.
What's he eating?
Astaghfirullah. You see what you're talking now, it's very simple.
What's he doing?
Allah, you're going against Allah now.
Well, you know
What's he
what's
doing in the
crazy, bro?
heavens?
Even shias call you man kafir. Wallahi, that's so aib.
They have to.
That's so aib, wallahi.
They have
He
to.
exposed himself. Innit?
But we don't call no one kafir.
I mean, you guys are.
Why?
You guys are kafir.
Because you guys believe this is...
Yeah, it's in Surah An-Nisa 3773. Its grade is Sahih by Darul Salam. It says, you are setting up rivals to Allah and associating others with Him. You say whatever Allah wills and you will, and you say by the Kaaba. So the Prophet commanded them, if they wanted to swear an oath, to say by the Lord of the Kaaba and to say whatever Allah wills, then what you will.
Brother, who teaches this stuff?
So they were upset that Muhammad was saying by the Kaaba instead of by the Lord of the Kaaba. And also, there's traditions that say that Muhammad, he led prayer in Surah 53. When it came to Ayah 21, he said, and valid is the intercession of Allah Ta'ala Manat. You know that, right? That's in your traditions. That's in Al-Tabari, the history of Al-Tabari, and also in the tafsir of Al-Tabari. And Ibn Ashab.
Sorry, you lost me.
Right, so I can show you a hadith as well.
Say slowly what you just said.
Right, so there are traditions in the Islamic belief, right, that say that Muhammad, when he was in leading prayer, and he was leading prayer, and he was reciting Surah 53, when he got to Ayah 21, he said, and their prayer is valid as intercessors, Allah Ta'ala Manat.
The Satanic verses.
The Satanic verses, right? And then after this, according to your traditions, Muhammad went away, and the pagans bowed down, and the jinns and everyone who was there bowed down to this. But afterwards, Muhammad went, and then the angel Jibreel came to him and said, Muhammad, you have erred. You have not spoken words from Allah, but rather words from the shaitan. And then he repented, and then the real verse came down. Okay, I could tell you a book if you want to read about it. There are Muslim scholars who've written about it.
More about this
Well, Ibn Asad, I can show you a hadith that refers to it. Let me show you that, because it's in Al-Bukhari. Yeah, because
You're talking about traditions which are not in the hadith and not in the Quran.
it's mentioned in it's in your sirah, which is part of the sunnah. And it's mentioned briefly in the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. Let me show you.
Anyway, you're talking about this, I don't know nothing about it, so better move on.
Yeah, that's the name of
The name,
the book name. The book I'm referring to. Let me show you that. I need to get a reference to it. It's called Before Orthodoxy, Satanic Verses in Islam, I think.
from the Sunnah.
No, I'm quoting you a scholar who's a Muslim who has looked at the sources. There are 50 different narrations.
Scholar is he first?
There's a Muslim scholar
Yeah,
he specializes in this. This was his life work, basically. No, it's Sunni. It's Sunni. As far as I'm aware, it's Sunni. Let me find it for you.
Yeah, I believe there were two narrations. One is the one where there's no mention of the idols.
Well, no, there's actually a lot. There's a lot of narrations.
The one is, it just mentions them bowing. The other one they say that Satan inserted something. Those were, I believe, they were not authentic. And like.
Well, no, the early Sahaba thought they were authentic, and that's what this guy says. Let me show you.
Yeah, but they are like there was like a committee which came together.
Satanic verses history. No, wait. Before Orthodoxy, the Satanic verses in early Islam. If I open this up, because I have a link to it when it actually loads. I have to do a lot of studying. I need to learn things. This is the book. It should tell you who it's from. This is a PDF, so it's going to take ages to load. But I have links to it as well. Hang on. We're not really interested in the links. I'm trying to find the author for you, his name. But you can go read this yourself. This is by a man called Shahab Shahab Ahmed. Shahab, he wrote a book called Before Orthodoxy, the Satanic Verses in Early Islam. And his view is this, that the early Sahaba did believe that this event actually happened, and that the reason they believed it was because they didn't have the understanding you have today of Muhammad. They believed that Muhammad was like a hero who went through trials and difficulties. Looks like him, yeah. Look at his Wikipedia page. He died a Muslim. So, but his view was that because they had a different view, that's why they didn't see any issue with it. They saw it as he made a mistake, but then Allah interceded through Jibreel and they told him, no, you have spoken in error, and then it was corrected, and then they moved on. They didn't see it as an issue.
But there's not a single authentic narration about that.
But there are, well, they are. Ibn Ashaq records it.
Yeah.
There are over 50, and this guy goes...
Weak. Ibn Taymiyyah said all of them combined. Maybe you can say that,
but there's over 50.
Yeah.
Right, so
all of them weak. Combined. Ibn Taymiyyah
right.
If you combine
okay, combine them.
Maybe
but most scholars, I think, would actually accept. The reason why scholars don't accept it today is theological reasons. It's because it's difficult, right? You don't want to accept that. It doesn't go against the Quran. It goes against the Deen and what the Deen now thinks of Muhammad.
Yeah, because Allah said, he will protect the Quran, right? So
Well, technically he did. He did. If you think of it in the way that he did protect it, but not in the way you probably think today.
Yeah, orthodoxy. But like I said, there is not a single authentic narration which says that.
But Ibn Ishaq al-Tabari, like I don't know. I'm quoting you the earliest.
Quoting them doesn't make it.
The point is, even if it did happen, well, I'm not sure about if it did happen.
The Sahaba
the
thought
point
it
is
did.
Allah corrected it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really
right, but he did sin though. But he did sin.
But sometimes
no, that's not a sin.
It's not a sin.
Wait. To honor 3 different gods.
No, it didn't happen. Absolutely.
Well, I'm saying the Sahaba thought it did. Huh?
Where does honoring 3 different gods come from?
No, this is the story, right? I need to find that hadith for you as well. So when he was,
Does it say there that he intentionally?
So the idea was that the pagans weren't listening to him. He wanted the pagans to listen to him, so he changes the verse and he includes their gods as Muhammad when he was reciting Surah 53. When he gets to Ayah 21, this is the Islamic narration. There are over 50 different narrations that record that this happened, and the Sahaba believed it.
No, it said Satan threw it, right?
Yeah. Shaitan threw the verses into his mouth, but he isn't. It's not as if Satan did it and he didn't want to do it. He was tempted to do it. And Shaitan threw it into his mouth and then he said it.
He was reciting, then Jibreel came, the fake narration which says that the Jibreel came and said, why did you say that? I didn't.
Yeah, and then afterwards, right? Exactly.
But like you said, there's not an authentic narration. All of them.
There are over 50 that the early Sahaba was quoting.
No. All of them weak. Combining
but the Sahaba was saying it. Like, there's over 50 recorded narrations that go back to members of the Sahaba saying it.
What he's saying is not Sahih.
But there's over 50 of them.
It doesn't matter if 50 or 250.
So wait. So all of the Sahaba were fabricating things about what?
There's not an authentic.
So everyone made false stuff up about the Sahaba.
It's not about Zaif Hadith.
Yeah.
It's not about what they. It's just fabricated.
You know what it is?
So what we have
Hadith is about chain of
Even Taymiyyah said this when there was no controversy about the Satanic verses. Nobody cared about it. He said that at that time, right? Now it's become an issue, right?
Yeah. I agree with that. I think at that time, no one thought this was an issue. No one did, which is why it was being told.
I'm just saying nobody.
No. Ibn Ishaq thought they were authentic. That's why he's quoting them.
No, but the narration he uses, I'm saying.
Okay, fine. But my point is that earliest historians of Islam thought this actually happened, and they trace it back to members of the Sahaba.
Yeah, no, from the Sirah, because the Sirah does not contain everything authentic, right? We look at the narration.
Well,
the Sirah,
I mean, what is the earliest Sirah you have?
Which is the one from.
Well, it's going to be Ibn Ashaq, really, as recorded by Ibn Asham later. But the point is if you deny that, then in all honesty, I'm going to say, well, the Sirah is out then.
No, but we do not use the Sirah to derive.
But the Sirah is part of the Sunnah.
Yeah, no, the Sirah, unless it contradicts the Quran.
Yeah, but that's the same with Hadith. If you have those views, then you're basically denigrating the Sunnah to the point where you can't quite know what really happened.
No.
Do you accept Sahih Bukhari in its fullest?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a few.
Right, it's referenced in Sahih Bukhari.
Yeah. Well, the narration which you tell it does not mention the intersection of this thing. It mentions
that he led prayer in Surah 53, and at the end of it, the pagans, the jinn, and all of mankind.
We agree with that. That has no issue.
You believe Muhammad led prayer, and the pagans and the jinn affirm what he was saying.
Yeah. And it did not say. But he's saying When he prostrated the Surah Najm.
Why would the Muslims, the pagans, and the jinn be like bowing down into what he's saying?
Because of the power of the Quran. You're proving what I'm saying. The Surah Najm.
But all of the histories say that's not what it is. All of the histories.
Just told Surah Najm.
You know, Sahih al-Bukhari comes after Ibn Asaq, you know that? Right, so Ibn Asaq says this story. Muhammad led Surah 53. When he got to ayah 21, he said things that weren't correct. He affirmed Allah Ta'ala Manat as three gods whose intercession is valid. He then, all the jinns and pagans bow down to him.
No. Again, Surah Sahih al-Bukhari does not mention anything about...
I know Sahih al-Bukhari doesn't mention the content, but it affirms that in that prayer, in that particular recitation of Surah 53, the jinns and the pagans and all the Muslims all bow down. It's obviously referencing it. And it's authentic, it's Sahih.
I agree with that. I have no issue that he recited Surah Najm.
So likely then, wait, on the
should
balance of evidence, it probably happens.
No, it doesn't. If every single
Okay,
one
all right.
of those narrations are
I think you're throwing parts of your sunnah under the bus.
No, I'm not.
I
I'm
think you
actually
are.
authenticating the Salah because we have
I just quoted Sahih al-Bukhari that references
using
it.
the Sirah, which is
I'm
considerably lower than...
I am using the Sirah and I am using that hadith as what you should consider as authentic sunnah. But you're not accepting it.
We don't, unless it is authenticated.
So that's the same you say about hadith.
But yes, but Sirah
They are then.
is collection.
Yeah.
Some are weak, some are, so we don't...
Right, but I'm taking the earliest, which is part of the historical method, is the most reliable. No, as part of the historical method, you should take the earliest.
Sahih means authentic.
Yes, I'm saying there is no... I'm saying there is no Sahih.
Cover to cover, it has to be authentic. Cover to cover, it has to be authentic.
100% I agree.
If there is a non-authentic verses in the hadith, then the whole book is not authentic.
That's not right.
Yeah?
Who said that? That
Wait,
makes it
wait.
if it's a bad sign.
It's also worth mentioning, right, that the Quran, in effect, is a form of hadith. So it has its own isnad for each verse. So if you start questioning the reliability of the isnad of the hadith, which is characterized as the highest authentic hadith, you're actually calling into question the Quran, because there is some hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that's more authenticated in the isnad than the Quran.
The truth is, this subject is a bit of a complicated subject, and maybe we don't.
Right. Okay, that's fine. But my point is,
we don't have
Right.
the knowledge to talk
okay.
about this.
Well, that's fair.
So better you
That's
need to
fair.
speak to someone else.
That's fair. Well, if you can get me Muhammad Ajab, if you can get me anyone, I'd love to talk with them. I don't know if they are, but if they do, tell them to speak to Chris, and I'll debate them. You know, I have no problem with that.
You have mentioned that Ibn Asakir.
What? Sorry?
I've mentioned that
Ibn Asakir is before Ibarra.
No, it's not. Check it.
Well, in terms of
Much later.
in terms of the history, the history says that Ibn Asakir is about 750-ish. Although we don't actually have his works, we only have the works of Ibn Hisham, who came later. But technically, it's meant to go back to an actual written thing from about 750-ish. Was it Al-Bukhari is like 9th century, so like 830 to 870, maybe about there.
Ibn Asakir?
Supposedly 750-ish.
Thank you.
But whether I believe that or not is not the point. The point is that Muslims will try and tell me that, so I accept them at their word and I go with that. Just because it helps my argument. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
What is the hadith number?
Yeah, let me find it for you. Got it. Sahih al-Bukhari 4862. And I will read it out for you guys.
Just give me the number, please.
Yeah, 4862. So
1 second.
there it is for you. Take a picture if you want, so you can look at it at home. Yeah.
So here
Okay.
it's said that the...
So this is referencing the event, and I can show you by reading it. So it says, narrated Ibn Abbas, the Prophet performed the prostration when he finished reciting Surah Al-Najm, I think that's how you pronounce it, Najm, which is Surah 53.
Just read the Arabic easier for me.
Yeah, alright then read the Arabic. Actually,
Read it out loud, please, so we can hear.
yeah.
I'm reading the Arabic.
Oh,
I'll read it after
I
him.
can
You can read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, read it out loud.
So this is where is the
Okay,
issue.
let me just read this and then that's it. So this it says, narrated Ibn Abbas, the Prophet performed a prostration when he finished reciting Surah Najm, and all Muslims and pagans and jinns and human beings prostrated along with him. So we know what that's referring to, because the event in Ibn Asaq says that it was that particular surah that he was leading in prayer, and at the end of it, all of the Muslims, the jinns and the human beings prostrated with him. So it's a reference to it. And this is counted as
where is the
Sahih
problem?
Bukhari.
We believe in this. Where is the issue?
Because it's referring a story in an earlier tradition, which comes which you can find in Ibn Asaq, his works. Yep, the earliest
You know
surah.
that
Yeah.
hadith, a lot of time there is extra entry to the hadith,
Well, this-
and it is not accepted.
Wait,
So
this is actually,
we accept this text as it is, this one.
Sure.
In-
This is actually the minimal thing, right? This is just referencing the full
no, there
event.
is no way to say referencing.
Well, it's obviously the same story.
No, how you,
Unless you
how
think that
are
Muhammad did it on
acting
2
is
times.
referencing. Because
Well, if I tell you a
it is in
story,
the same book, the same
Wait,
book,
if
we
I
can
tell you
say-
a story, and Chris came to Speaker's Corner, he fell over, and I don't know, lots of doves flew in the air, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay.
Then I reference, there was this occasion where Chris went to Speaker's Corner, and you'd be like, it's the same story. It might not have
Yeah,
exactly
but
the same.
Maybe I can go and say.
So it's the same story.
Maybe I can
Yeah.
go and Chris fall down.
Unless you
maybe
think it
right
happened
in the
twice.
sky. Would that be true?
Wait, say that again.
Maybe Chris fall down,
Yeah.
and the same story you said.
Right.
Then he flew to the
Right,
to the
sure,
sky.
sure.
So
But
this
it's
is
obviously referencing the same
issue,
story.
But it is fabrication. Part is fabricated by
Well, how
me.
do you know it's fabricated?
No, I'm saying just saying it's possibility. It is possibility.
Well, okay, but my point is
So
that
how-
these
how we check
narrations,
that? How we check
right?
that
Well,
is by narration.
that's up to you. But the point is that there are lots of narrations. This guy that I quoted earlier in his book Before Orthodoxy, he says there's 50 different narrations that have a chain of isnad that go back to the Sahaba. Now, if you want to say no, all of them are wrong, that's fine. But you're probably going to do more damage because the people in that isnad, you're going to have to say are unreliable, and that goes to other
But sorry,
isnads.
did you check why they are wrong?
Well, this guy says they're
we
correct.
don't say just
Yeah.
a second. They don't say it is wrong, just from their mind. It is because we have a chain of narration and studying of the men who transmitted this
Right.
hadith. So if I come and put some true names like companions and the people after companions,
Right.
I can now make a
Sure, I understand, and
hadith
that's why I don't trust
that
isnad hadith.
narration should look like it is
I don't
true.
trust isnad science because of that. That's my view.
No.
But my point is that if there are tons of stories that people are telling each other in the Muslim community early that this was a real thing, they probably believed it was a real thing.
Who said this? Now, for
Yeah.
example,
Now, we
we are three here, right?
Yep.
He's drinking coffee. If I say, I take a picture with you, I say, I met Chris and Muhammad, and we're doing this and this and this, and then I added a part, a bad part. Should they believe me in each part? They believe that I met
That's
you.
why I reject the isnad science. I reject the isnad for that exact reason.
No. It's not a reason to reject that one. So exactly in this story, this major part of it,
Right.
you read in Sahih Bukhari, absolutely true. Some
We approve
added
this part.
something, some
The Sahih Bukhari reference.
Yes, we
Well,
approve that. We
do you,
believe in that. But if
but it's
someone-
referencing the story.
other part, yeah, exactly. As I
Right.
referenced this story,
Yeah.
the other part which is added, fabricated,
But that
And this is
predates
not only in
it. That
this
comes before Sahih Bukhari.
doesn't matter before. It matters the criteria. The criteria
that is different.
you take with it.
But
So
the-
if he say that I
Right.
will follow a certain
Okay,
criteria, that is
why was
good enough.
why was a substantial amount of this early Sahaba repeating these narrations? Because remember, this Sahih Bukhari one came back from Ibn Abbas. It was narrated from the isnad goes back to Ibn Abbas.
Okay.
Right. So why was Ibn Abbas supposedly saying this?
This is
Unless a lot of Muslims believed it actually did happen.
in Sahih al-Bukhari, you're saying, right?
Yeah, in
This
Sahih
one- this
Bukhari,
one
it
goes
says
to
here,
Ibn Abbas.
narrated Ibn Abbas.
Okay,
so
so-
the isnad goes all the way back to Ibn Abbas,
Okay.
right? Ibn Abbas was it the cousin of Muhammad? He was the father of Tafsir.
Okay.
So you're gonna throw him under the bus?
Okay.
Come on, brother.
what's the other
Okay, this narration is right. If I
So-
come
but
and say
it's obviously quoting an earlier thing.
that
Yeah.
does not make it right.
But it's quoting
It has
an
to be
earlier
studied.
story.
The date when every narrator was died, where he met the other, was he a liar? Where he met this narration, is there a gap? There is study science to say that
right.
this part is extra, that is acceptable
Friend
or
of a
not,
friend.
and this is not only in this hadith, but in every other hadith.
Right.
That we check every part that looks like extra.
Okay,
If
listen.
there is
Wait.
extra
this is not extra. This is actually a summary, and he's referencing a story that was told in earlier sources.
Where did he say?
Do you believe it was two events then? Do you believe it was two events? That Muhammad led the same surah
I believe
and the
that
same
extra-
thing happened? No, I think that's the same event. I think he's referring to it.
Yes, but he added extra.
Right. No, he left out things.
Or
Because the earlier story actually has more information.
Added extra. That is not.
But that's the earlier source. In history, if you want to know what the most reliable source is for something, you go to the earlier sources. And remember, this is widespread. There are 50 different narrations of this. Early narrations of the Sahaba saying this.
Yeah.
So,
But look, Al-Bukhari said in his beginning that I will not write each hadith, every hadith I know.
you don't need a few thousand out of hundreds of thousands, yeah?
He has another book, you know that?
Yeah, he
Al-Bukhari
does,
has
yeah.
another book
Yeah, he had multiple books,
called Al-Adab al-Mufrad and another books. In that book, he said, I will put narrations. But he doesn't say that I will each hadith is sahih. In Sahih al-Bukhari, he said, I talk on myself and oath that each hadith, it's for me a sahih. Ibn Ishaq didn't say that. Al-Tabari didn't say that.
Sure.
Wait, all of them, they said, we're bringing everything.
They are narrating everything they know.
Yeah,
Give it to the scientists.
Because that means that in the early Islam, it must have been a common story. You're making my point.
Please.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
They are bringing everything.
Yeah.
So it is there.
Collected, then studied.
Yeah, exactly. Collected. The scientists can study it whenever they want. So they have now everything collected here. So no other one can say we lost some of that, even if it's da'if, even if it's weak, even if it's mawdu', even if it's not true at all.
Right.
You know?
But this is the point.
Still, they are.
Right, but they're narrating it, and they're narrating it en masse. There's 50 different narrations of this.
They are narrating it even.
So they probably believed it was true. I'm not even saying it was true. I'm simply saying they believed it was true.
You check the beginning of the book, okay?
Right.
They don't say that we say that this is true. This not like Sahih al-Bukhari. They say that we are narrating all that we
brother
have
in
seen.
humanity. Sahih al-Bukhari references the same story, and he includes it in his own hadith that he
They
thinks is
are repeating
sahih.
the same exact point that is not true.
Why don't you just accept this? Why don't you just accept that this is probably true? Because all the evidence seems to suggest it is. But because of your deen today, you reject it.
Bukhari is true.
But he references it then.
Where is the difference? Did he say?
Brother. If I tell you a story and it's obviously copying another story,
We are repeating ourselves.
yeah, but you haven't
There
refuted
is
that.
multiple stories
Right.
that we have to verify every
I don't.
extra
No,
addition
wait.
to say that this is true.
I don't believe Muhammad led prayer for the same surah and the same thing happened again.
No,
That's less likely
There is
than what you're saying.
narration of the same event. Narration of the same event.
Yes, it's a narration of the same event.
Okay, great.
Right.
I agree on that.
Okay,
Some
so it's the same event.
Some
Sahih Bukhari says it happened.
Are verified. Some narration
Sahih
are true.
Bukhari verifies
Some other
it.
narration we could not verify. We could not verify that this extra addition, any extra word is right. That's not only on this hadith, on multiple hadith. You know that. So when we say that one in Bukhari, if there is a one letter extra, we need now to do another verification for where this letter came from.
Right.
Okay, so this is verified.
But in his history, in history, you don't take the later sources as more authentic than the earlier ones unless you have a very
But
good
it's not-
reason to
but-
do it.
but-
The earliest we have repeats that these are the different narrations that go back to the Sahaba saying this happened. In history,
May I
the
say
historical
something? May I say
approach would affirm that, not later
May I say
sources.
something?
Okay.
If I made a book, and I collected every scientific theory on evolution, okay, would if I do not claim that these are true, even if they are earlier to some other books later on, if I don't claim these are true, that does not mean anything. I'm collecting the theories. I'm collecting the hadith, the weak, the mawdu'.
Right. Let's use your analogy. Let's use your analogy.
Everything.
Imagine you took all of the theories and the ideas and the scientific ideas, whatever, about evolution, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you found there were a ton, for whatever reason, 200 years ago, I know that doesn't work, but anyway, you would then be correct in saying it looks like, based on the evidence, whether this is real or not, that at least at that time, the people, the scientists there, believed in it. Because the majority of the evidence keeps telling you that they're saying these things.
if they are saying this thing, we have.
They probably believed it.
But we have our criteria of verification.
Wait, no, because some of them, many of them, they are writing books about da'if hadith, about weak hadith. They're saying this book is full of weak. Go and read it. Are they writing it because they are believing in it? No.
You know that, right? Some books for only
many
weak
books,
hadith.
actually.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
They're
saying
writing
Sahih Bukhari is fully Sahih. Yeah.
They are writing it
Yeah.
because it is weak, and they want to write and
thank you.
make everything written and fair. Yeah, and let's say that let's take the same story again. If I went now after and say I was Chris and Muhammad.
Right.
Muhammad was drinking coffee. This is a story, right? This was the right story. Another time I'll say Chris was drinking coffee. Is this true? Because I told two stories.
Yeah.
One of them was totally right,
Yeah.
and the other I added some parts.
Which one was earlier? Which one was earlier?
The first one.
Right, so the historical approach would say you would put more emphasis on that than later sources. No, it does matter. That's how history works. Like every single historian has higher emphasis on the sources that are earliest to the actual event than later ones.
You have to discuss.
That's just how history works.
Criteria, not yours, your criteria.
Yeah, but your criteria isn't historic.
Is the authenticity.
My friend, I'm being
of the
sincere here.
hadith.
The whole Isnad science is just a Muslim thing to help Islam deen. That's what it's for.
That's your opinion.
No.
That's your opinion.
No,
But
no
we
Christian,
believe
no
it is since early
atheist, no
centuries.
secular, no
For that
Hindu,
cause-
no one. No one accepts it other than Muslims. If we had this idea, right,
But
that
sorry,
as
if
Christians,
you have to convince me that is true.
Wait,
you
okay,
have to
put it this
come
way,
from
put it this way.
Right, from my perspective.
if we had the similar thing in our religion, right, would you respect it as correct?
Excuse me.
If we had the same Isnad idea in Christian religion, would you accept it as
Can I answer
authentic?
that? If I want to convince you, I will assume it right, then I convince you from your point of view.
Well, that's
that
what
this-
I've done.
No,
That's
but
what I've
we are
done.
not accepting our side.
Because there are 50 different narrations that go back to the Sahaba saying this happened.
Sorry, is there anywhere that says if there is 52 narration, whatever it is?
All right, so the early Sahaba was lying about everything, or Ibn al-Shaq made it up, or Al-Tabari made it up. Like, what, come on.
That's
He listens to people, they are saying it. He just wrote it down in his book as a week, no problem.
a Tabari.
No, it does.
He's collecting everything.
Yeah, he
That's a Tabari
collect-
claim that he is collecting true, authenticated hadith. Does he claim
No,
that?
all he is doing,
All
as a neutral party is he is saying these are the things that are being said.
Exactly.
Right.
Anything
One of the things that was being said
anything being
that
said.
according to him goes back to the Sahaba was that story.
Anything, anything
So-
that's being
But
said.
the chain of people between Tabari and between Sahaba, there are some of them are weak, some of them are not.
Then throw out the whole surah. Throw out all of Ibn Asad. Why would you trust any of
That's
Ibn
why.
Asad? Why would you?
We believe in the narration or in the authenticity of regarding the men, the narration and studying the narration. Okay, if you want to tell me that narration is true, we don't care about numbers.
You're right, brother.
Just a minute. If you,
Let's go see him. Let's see him.
so we don't care about the number. We care about the is it authentic or not. So if you want to convince me, okay, if you want to convince me that is true, you have to convince me from my own book. If I want to talk to Christian
But
about,
I'm referring
about
to
if
your
Jesus
books.
is God or not, I
But
will
I'm referring to the
have-
histories, the early Islamic histories, the earliest. They don't have a problem with
Did
this.
they claim?
No, what I'm saying is they were a neutral party. They recorded that these things were being
Exactly.
said.
They are
Right.
recording
And even
whatever
if I
they
take
said.
later, even Sahih Bukhari affirms that this was something that happened in some sense because he's quoting the same story.
You are just going in loops.
I know, but so
I will
alright.
explain myself.
So we leave it at that then.
Anyway,
All right. Then.
Chris,
Have a nice
thank
day.
you.
Have a nice day.